Welcome, crew. Excuse me. Guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Climb aboard the mothership. Carry your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely. We soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, April 12th, Monday, April 13th for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. If you're listening live right now, you may be listening to us on KPNL Radio, which you can find at KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. And you can also find us live on YouTube. We do have in the description below ways that you can help us get back to broadcasting on Twitch and Facebook and everywhere we can. As far as listening, you can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we have story time with me, TessaTNT, and we're going to be reading The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, and this is by Reverend John Polk. Interview with Keith Andrews on Aquarian Radio, with co-hosts Janet, Kira Lesson, Karen, Christine Patrick, and Reverend John Polk. Our Keith Andrews, an eyewitness to the Blue Beings, gave an interview on December 4th, 2015 on Aquarian Radio, aquarianradio.com, on Blog Talk Radio with host Janet, Kira Lesson, and co-hosts Karen, Christine Patrick, and Reverend M. Polk. I introduced the subject of the blue beings on the show at 106.50. Keith adds his commentary beginning at 1:10:30. 1:10:30. Keith, the other ET race I was talking about was a race called Martokians. Martokians, quite frankly, come from Mars. They're human-sized green men. 1:11:15. Keith. Now, when I mentioned this to Dawn, I don't mean to be rude. You are bluish, obviously. Are you by any chance Pleiadian? And he looked at me in a very odd way and he goes, yes. So I welcomed him to the conference. I said most of the people here have either had or claim to have had or would like to have had off-world experiences. My guess is you've had more than your fair share. 1:12:10. Keith. A few years back I ran into a Martokian. Well, he got visibly excited. Then Don said, where did you see him? What was he doing here? Why were they in the area? Keith, clearly Don knew what this race was. Understand that Angela was the lady who was with me when she actually spotted them from across the room first and had pointed the Canadians out to me. Keith. I asked Don if we could get a picture of him, right? And Don said, certainly, no problem. So I turned to another, to meet a stranger at that time at the conference, and asked if he could get a picture with Don. Angela and I, and he did. He says, no problem, I will. Took the picture, and Ange offered to send the picture through Facebook or through email to Don, and Don got very defensive and goes on and says, no, I don't want it released to the public. I feel like we read this last time. So, okay, we won't, and the thing people have to realize, Don's pigmentation was fluid. It changed under his skin, and you could feel it move. Now, this is something, or not something, that will show up in a picture, especially not in a still. Will not show up in modern technology's photographs, because the one thing Don told me point blank was that they are shifters. They control their pigmentation. Okay, so caught him off guard was the fact that he hadn't held it together quite that well? Keith. When they went to leave the hall, like the conference room, I watched them go, because one of the other guys who was there got really edgy, really uncomfortable, and he clearly wanted to go, so Dawn broke our conversation off. I watched them leave the conference hall and head for the front door. They didn't make it to the front door. They literally faded out. They vanished. Much like, if you will, a transporter beam. Talking to another witness actually saw them show up the same way. They didn't walk in through the door, they materialized in the lobby. I think we've got 20 eyewitnesses inside the building that saw them. So this is a written statement by eyewitness Ron Sharfy. Ron Sharfy is one of the witnesses I have had ongoing conversation with. He came on to talk about his story a few times on Aquarian Radio, and was very kind to write a statement for this book. Ron Sharfy writes, "Where do I begin? On August 29th of 2015, it would be a night that would go down in history. There were many great speakers that spoke at the conference for those 2 days, like Reverend John Marcus Polk, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Mike Cleland, Stanton Friedman, Brian Jerome, Eric Mitchell, Denise Stoner, Grant Cameron, and last but not least, Travis Walton. During the showing of Travis Walton's DVD, there were 2 to 4 beings that got a chance to be at the show. No one saw how these beings came into the hotel. They wanted to see the last guest speaker, which was Travis Walton. There were quite a few strange experiences that happened in the span of time when Travis Walton was talking at the time. I have many questions, even for myself. I had a hard time believing what I was seeing with my own eyes. Like I had a mental block, if you will. I was taking pictures and filming for the whole night. I had to take a phone call outside in the hallway and saw them. They did not look so off in human nature. It's like they were using a cloaking device for them to look normal when walking into the hotel. When they wanted to pay for the last show, Travis Walton, one of the beings, held money in their hand but had no idea about U.S. currency, basically. They did not know the value of money, which that threw me off even more. I know that I was able to pick 2 out of the 4 beings that had gone there, because they did not want to alarm anyone when I wanted to take some pictures of them and forgot to. Basically, where I'm going with this statement is, we still get told by the government to keep quiet, and also other government agencies to not say anything. Basically, I just wanted to show how much disinformation that there was out there. The question is why the U.S., when other countries had already came forward with their findings. What is the U.S. hiding and why? However, I can't say that there couldn't be disinformation that's now out in the open from other countries. We know that there are many similarities with other countries concerning ETs, abductions, and other in relation to their technologies. And many people that are being visited by other beings, not human in origin, but may have human-like characteristics with some of the interdimensional beings either on this world or off. Just like there will be many similarities with the 20 people or so that saw the Pleiadian-like beings at the Experiencers Speak conference. They all have their own stories to tell from what they have seen. But at the end of the day, we all saw something that was out of place. There was about 65 plus people that came into the conference, and out of that number, only 20 saw them, the beings. I believe for those 20 people that saw them, they may have been abducted by them before, and that would be one of the reasons that I can foresee them seeing them in the manner in which they did. The reasoning and the speculation may even go deeper than this. When the conference started wrapping up, I turned and saw one of the Pleiadians. He was wearing a hat and glasses, and I was able to see the ceiling lights hit the Pleiadian's face, and I said to myself, wow, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? I was going out to get some fresh air as people started leaving the conference because it was done. I left a couple of minutes before anyone else did because I wanted to go to my hotel room. I was feeling like my mind was drained. As I walked outside, something had caught my attention on the corner of my eye on the top of the hotel roof. I turned my head fully, looked up, and I saw a flash of light on the hotel's roof, and then the light just vanished. I felt very compelled to go back out and needed to talk to some people about what had gone on at the conference. After talking to quite a few people, having met some very interesting people along the way, like Keith Andrews and his wife Angela, after going back to my hotel room, I just crashed on the bed. And when I woke up, my right leg was very stiff and I noticed 2 red dots on my upper right knee. It was unlike anything that I had ever seen before. But I had to rush out and catch my flight back to New Jersey. This is why, for this very reason, we all have to collaborate with each other. Only if they saw something like this, which we did. Like Reverend John Marcus Polk, Aubrey Starburn, Hewins, Keith Andrews, and his wife Angela. Last but not least, Travis Walton, because this is a big event in a small town. And after all, the Pleiadians did want to see Travis Walton, but we all ended up seeing them, about 20 people or so. Chapter 5, Making the Rounds on Talk Radio. The Visitation is likely part of Soft Disclosure. During the year after the Visitation, from August 2015 to present day of the finishing of this book, September 2016, I was able to tell the story on internet-based talk radio programs. There was quite the interest in this event, many seeing what happened as a part of Soft Disclosure. That term is used for how humanity is being gradually introduced to the ET presence over many years and in many ways, including media. As a co-host on Aquarian Radio with Janet Kira Lesson and Karen Christine Patrick, we conducted a number of shows about the Blue Beings' visitation. This encouraged me to be a guest on as many other shows as possible to relive this ET encounter. Next, I will provide a list of the mini shows with some links. In those shows, we spoke of the Blue Beings, some we did not. So, links to the radios, shows. There's quite a few. 10-12-15 Diamonds Forever 31 with host Elizabeth Diamond. 10-20-15 Late Night in the Midlands with host Michael Vera. 10-21-15 Nature of Reality Radio with host Andrew Fisher. 1-27-16 Fade to Black. 2-3-11-16 Stargate Roundtable on BBS Radio with host Marietta Pickett. Fade to Black was with host Jimmy Church. I didn't need to skip that. 3-7-16 Space Radio with host Dave Scott. 4-3-16 Beyond the Strange with host Dave Crew, Les Johnson, and Brian Bressler, aka Gigi. 4-6-16 The Lance Scurry Show with host Lance Scurry. 4-12-16 The Lance Scurry Show with host Lance Scurry. 4-22-16 North London Paranormal Investigations, host Mickey Gocool. 5-13-16 KCOR Radio, Restricted Airspace with host Tina Marie. 6-1-16 Contact TV YouTube channel with host Leslie Mitchell-Clark and Wes Roberts. 6-9-16 North London Paranormal Investigations Network with hosts Carrie Carter and Carrie Greenway Angels. 6-25-16 Spaceboy Universe with host Jim and Sirvana. 6-26-16 Paranormal Filler with host Wes Forsyth. 7-5-16 The Evil Scotsman with host Ed Kelly. That's a funny name of a show. I like it. The Evil Scotsman. Alright, on Beyond the Strange Show with Dave Cruz. Here's my setup and aftermath comments when I was on the radio show Beyond the Strange with Dave Cruz. Allow me to introduce myself. I am International Metaphysical Minister Reverend John M. Polk. I'd love to be a guest on your show. Please feel free to review my bio below. For more information, the best way to research me is to go to the website John Polk Media at johnpolkmedia.com, which will include my bio, background videos, pictures, podcasts, some of my book excerpts, talking points, and more. One very important item that is not mentioned on the site is that I was the opening speaker at Experiencers Speak 4, August 28th and 29th in 2015. I conducted a seance ritual designed to summon extra-dimensional spirits and ET. I worked. It worked. 4 human-like visitors, 2 with blue skin, appeared and began speaking with 12 or more attendees and myself. I was the first person they approached, and the visitors spoke with me the most. There were at least 20 witnesses to this incredible encounter. Jimmy Church had me on his show Faded Black to discuss this hot topic. Additionally, I am a co-host and co-producer of Aquarian Radio, which you can find at aquarianradio.com. I continue to be a consultant at Dr. Edgar Mitchell's FREE, the Foundation for Research in Extraterrestrial Encounters, at experiencer.org, and Starborn Support International, founded by Audrey Starborn Hewins. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I know we can figure out a show date that works for both of us. After the show, which can be heard at and on YouTube, I got this response after the show, which was very encouraging. Beyond the Strange, with host, creator, and executive producer Dave Cruz. I'm Dave Cruz, host and creator of online radio show and podcast Beyond the Strange. I started my show in August of 2015 after I had an encounter with UFOs and the paranormal. When I noticed our skies were being tainted with white milky substances after a certain aircraft would pass by, leaving trails of these chemicals, I asked myself, why are they doing this? It was then that I knew I had to do something, but what exactly? I was only one person. What could one person do to change the world? And Beyond the Strange Radio was born. Taking some things from my childhood, such as In Search of and current internet radio shows like Faded Black and Jimmy Church, I decided that is how I would make my contribution to inform the world about UFOs, alternate dimensions, time travelers, ghosts and demons, and other subject matter that's not your everyday water cooler talk. That's how I learned about the Reverend Polk. I heard John on Faded Black one evening and heard a story about the Blue People. I thought to myself, how cool would it be to have Reverend Polk come on my show as a guest and talk about his experience? Also, John's teachings of the biblical Yahweh is a very unique and different theory about God and the God Creator. Humans for a millennia have believed that Yahweh is an all-powerful and all-knowing supreme being. Then John spoke about Yahweh, and I quote, Yahweh is not God, in that all God figures in all cultures are ETs, not God. However, all creator gods and Yahweh wanted we humans to keep worshipping those creator gods just like always. As collective humanity adapts to this knowledge, religion, culture, and tradition need not change. For now, you may pray to the alien God you have worshipped all along, but now pray to the real God as well. Since interviewing John, we had stayed in contact and have become friends. I always learn something new from John every time I listen to him. I wish you well, John, on your new book and all your future projects. I'm very humbled and proud to call you my friend and colleague. Many blessings, Dave Cruz, host, creator, and executive producer of Beyond the Strange Radio Show. Smiley face. So, Predictions 2016 on Aquarian Radio. The show I was asked to take part in at the beginning of 2016 was produced by my friend and editor Karen Christine Patrick. She recorded different experiencers on the theme of insightful predictions in a show on Aquarian Radio. This can be heard at aquarianradio.com. Insightful Predictions segment John Polk. Before the end of the year 2016, my books entitled Yahweh, the Biblical God, is an Alien, and The Blue Beings Visitation at the UFO Conference, available on ebook and paperback by going to johnpolkmedia.com, will begin to receive viral attention via the internet worldwide. This will bring into question the fundamental concepts of God and religion. The veil will be lifted regarding ET posing as the real God in cultures around the world. This will not be quickly or easily embraced by humanity, but it will serve as an item for heated debates, which is what I want. My whole intention behind my book is to spark controversy and get people talking about this ultra-sensitive topic, and I will be in the middle of the storm. I will be viciously attacked, which is also what I want. Bad press is better than no press, and a stage will be set to bring about awareness regarding ET. This will be aired out throughout all mediums of media, TV, radio, and mostly the internet. I will willingly become the sacrificial lamb in an effort to bring about disclosure so that humanity can ascend closer towards enlightenment. Along the way, I will lose most of my friends, many family members, and the ability to work in entertainment, which is my current profession, because of all the ridicule I will face. But I simply don't care. Other experiencers and myself worldwide are sticking out our collective necks in attempts to usher in a new golden age of change that will help all humanity grow together during this paradigm shift. I want the whole world to know and understand that there is monotheism. There is only one God. I call this omnipotent Mother, Father, and Universal God consciousness, and she loves all of us equally. Most war, terrorism, and conflict stems from religion, or what we think religion is. One day the world will know that ET established culture and religion on Earth thousands of years ago. Experiencers like myself around the world are commissioned on a mission by the real God to proliferate this message so that we may evolve as a species together and better understand our rightful place among the stars in the universe. At the Experiencers Speak for UFO Conference, August 28th and 29th, 2015, I was the opening speaker. During my presentation, I conducted a seance where I summoned benevolent ETs to join us in our congregation. Worked for human-like ETs, two with blue skin appeared to spoke with mostly me and about 10 other people. There were upwards of 20 or more witnesses to this life-changing event. Around the same time, Ray Hernandez, co-founder of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, visited Mount Shasta in California. While he was there, many witnessed ETs while camping on the mountain. My prediction is that these types of events where ET is unafraid to be seen in front of multiple witnesses is going to occur more frequently. I further predict that I will have a similar encounter again during the year of 2016, and so will many other experiencers. It will happen again. Many others and myself will see live ETs on the Earth plane again as a sign of their second coming as prophesied in the Bible and many other religious texts regarding Christ and other deities returning to our planet. My final predictions for this 2016, I pray I'm wrong about. First, let's entertain the axiom, as above, so below. With all the terrorist attacks, the shootings and bombings, not to mention earthquakes and natural disasters, etc., what is going on in the heavens or in outer space with the ETs? As there is a lack of harmony and there is a dark discourse among we earthbound humans. I feel the same is occurring with multiple factions of ETs in the cosmos. This is all boiling to a head and something inevitable is going to happen. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Perhaps it's a celestial war over the future of our planet, which I believe is well underway. And in conclusion, terrorists are planning an attack here in the United States. Just like with 9/11, I surmise that our government knows about it and is, in fact, in on it. Obama has over 15 close advisors, most of which are Muslims. That's why we were laying down and doing little or nothing about it. I pray to the real universal God consciousness and the benevolent ETs to bring about love, peace, and disclosure to the people of our planet, and to expose the powers that be who are in favor of the opposite. Chapter 6, Experiencer Diary. Sharing my story helps myself and others. Something I do often in talk radio and also in my first book, Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien, is to share details about my experiences. The many stories I have heard from other experiencers has encouraged me and added to my personal knowledge base of what is possible in the paranormal realm. I present my anecdotes in hopes that others will be acclimated to my weirdness. Somebody like me goes through nearly every day and be either informed or emboldened. Sometime in 2004, an old flame that lived with me had a supernatural knack for attracting the spirit world as I do. Together, the vortex in my home expanded as our collective souls, opening the gates even wider. One evening, we were sitting in bed together talking, and we began to hear what resembled Native American Indian drumming. She insisted on me going outside to locate the source of this ethereal percussion, thinking that maybe it was one of our neighbors. Walking around my yard in the middle of the night, I circumnavigated my home only to find silence, pretty much just a bit of noise, crickets, and nocturnal creatures. I re-entered my home to tell her I couldn't tell where the sound originated. We went back into my bedroom and the drums began again. A few years later, one of my neighbors told me that our homes were built on an old Indian reservation. I wondered if we were hearing ancestors of the tribe that lived there. 2009, having a near-death experience in DE. John Marcus Polk, my grandfather, Papa, and my dad's side, had just passed away. I'm his oldest grandchild and his namesake. A few weeks prior, I visited him in hospice. He was in the final stages of prostate and lung cancer and was coughing up bile and blood. The situation could not have been more terminal and sad. Every few minutes, he'd start hacking profusely. My grandmother, Mama, and I weren't sure what to do. So I decided I'm going to place my hand on him and send him healing love and light energy. Bringing no attention to what I'm doing, I just started talking to him and my mama. After maybe half an hour, I called it to our collective attention that Papa quit coughing while I was performing hands-on healing. Knowing that Papa is dying, I told him that I am a spiritual healer and can see and communicate with angels. I did so because I wanted them to be aware that their grandson can walk in both worlds and can call upon the godlight to help people. Just then my cousin walked in the room and Papa started hacking again. The interruption must have snapped my supernatural stream of healing energy. At Papa's wake, a day before the actual funeral, I approach him, hold his hand, start praying, and then crying. An ocean of tears passed through my eyes as if the deluge of Noah's flood. My respiration became irregular and I started choking on my own tears. Now I'm scared out of my wits because I can't breathe in or out. I'm gasping for air because that whole part of my anatomy was swollen shut as if an outside malevolent force was attempting to kill me. Thinking in my mind now that I could die right here at Papa's wake, I began to feel faint and white out. The walls were caving in all around me as my life seemed certain to end. My brother came over to me to help me as I was beginning to pass out. I was at the point of permanent brain damage, and then all of a sudden, I regained my faculties. My windpipes opened and I could breathe as freely as a trumpet player. 2014. The first time I was a co-host on Aquarian Radio, I saw a praying mantis entity on the wall, close to the ceiling of my bedroom late that night. Its body resembled a grasshopper and its face was clearly that of a praying mantis. I know that this has something to do with meeting and forging a soul-merging relationship with Janet Lesson, resurrecting our alien lineages. March 2015. I was on Twitter and received a direct message from Sandia, who is a Zeta from Zeta Reticuli. Actually, the message came from a lady that channels Sandia, who wishes to remain anonymous. The message basically stated that Sandia told her that he wishes to open the dialogue with me. We eventually exchanged phone numbers and subsequently have had many conversations. Shortly after meeting and talking with Sandia's channel, I had an abduction encounter. I can remember being outside one night while star watching, and the next thing I knew, I was in my bathtub at 4 a.m. in the morning. The water was cold and had risen up to my ears. I woke up asking myself, what just happened? Curiously, the drain was not closed, therefore the cold water had to be flowing for an extended period of time to fill the tub. I gathered myself up out of the tub and tried to recall what happened to me. All I could remember was being outside that night before sending light to the heavenly gods. I called the channel of Sandia the next day to speak to her about this encounter. She said that I was taken up on Sandia's ship, and not always, but often, ET will bathe the abductee in some kind of plasmatic fluid to cleanse the abductee of any germs, bacteria, pathogens, and toxins that can be harmful to those beings. Myself being returned and ending up in the bathtub was ET's way of washing that plasmatic fluid off of me. I was unnerving to awake to cold bath water with water high enough to almost enter my nose. If the alien anesthesia hadn't worn off in time, I could have drowned in my own bathtub. In retrospect, I think not. Sandia and the other ET returned me safely and was watching over me until I regained consciousness. Interestingly, Sandia's channel lives near the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico, which is the home of a military base and an alien base. She's told me that she can see, on occasion, UFOs coming and going from the mountains. May 28th, 2015 at 11:45 p.m. I see a UFO trail off like a shooting star over the treetops off to the northwest of my house. I woke up the next morning feeling like I had been abducted. I was overly tired and felt like I had been on a ship. I lost time. When I went to take out the garbage later that morning, I returned to my backyard and remembered falling on the ground as if I had from some deathly height fallen, perhaps a spaceship? I can't exactly recall. I picked myself up and I'm bleeding from my left hand and knee. Dazed, bewildered on the ground, I'm looking around thinking, what just happened to me? June 2nd, 2015, 11:46 p.m. I see a red ghost float across the living room. It tells me that she was the one who caused my injury. I broke my sternum in March of 2015. The pain was prolonged for months, and the ghost also told me my mama, grandma on dad's side, would die before the end of May. She didn't die until July. I believe this to be Elizabeth, the succubus being that often haunts me and tries to make me experience negative feelings. Fall 2015. The exact date I chose not to disclose. Read on and you'll see why. I was the guest on a radio show that I will leave nameless. This was my third appearance in as many weeks, and I had developed a certain rapport with the main host. She had an extremely accurate psychic medium on the panel during my final interview on the show that evening. Let's call him Chris. He was reading me and told me that an ET named Lamone or Leamone, something like that, who is my guide and is connected to me. I'm still researching this part of the story, but Lamone, I found out, he was a time traveler and had ventured upon sacred historical timelines that molded American history into what we know of it today. More specifically, he appeared in a photograph that was in a series taken during Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Another photo in the series, popularly discussed among time anomaly researchers, also contains evidence of the time traveler, Andrew Basiago, having been in the crowd that day. Karen Christine Patrick was listening to the show and heard everything that Chris the Psychic had to say. He found an article by George Levuno that shows an ET that resembles your classic gray captured in a photograph. After the show a few days removed, I called the show host on her personal phone, which I had done numerous times in the recent weeks. He acted like she had no idea of who I was and was very rude to me, demanding that I never call her on that number ever again. I ceased all communications with her. Shortly thereafter, that particular show was deleted and lost in the fog of time forever. To me, it had to do with what Chris the Psychic said regarding Lamone and Abraham Lincoln. Interestingly, it was none other than the cultist Aleister Crowley who made contact with a very strange ET creature called Ram. Was this very same Lamone who changed the timeline so that this radio host had completely forgotten the show or even talking to me? Was she threatened or scared off? Of the creature Lam, it was said, Lam is the Tibetan word for way or path, and Lama is he who goeth. Specific title of the gods of Egypt and the treader of the path in Buddhistic phraseology. October 28, 2015, 7 a.m. A.R. Gordon came to me. His literally was a modern-day time traveler. He was willingly taken off-world to another domain or dimension like Ambrose Bierce and Mitchell Hedges. He's trying to tell me something. He's teleporting back to connect with a few people. November 25th, 2015. Well, the moon cycles hard. Cameo on the day of the full moon from my Doreen Virtue Archangel Oracle cards deck. I haven't pulled a card in a long while. Something told me to. Today marked the third full moon cycle anniversary of the Blue Being's Visitation. August 29, 2015 and November 25, 2015 were both dates when the moon was full. November 29, 2015, 9 a.m. I was lying in bed thinking about the alien Anunnaki god and Lil, and then typo Christians exposed, the subject I was writing about at the time. And the printer went off and my friend heard it. The printer in my bedroom went off with the desktop turned off. The assembly that holds the printer cartridges will go back and forth a few times but never prints anything. Hearing it usually catches me off guard and makes me jump in my bed. This has been going on for years and is always a sign. My psychic thoughts and supernatural energies often serve as a trigger effect for this anomalous phenomenon. December 31st, 2015, 8:46 p.m. I've been crying for days over something personal I won't go into. Not always, but often when this happens, the gods will send me a gift. Fireworks are exploding everywhere as I'm outside in my UFO captain's chair that remains in my backyard. Coming from north to south, I see a red UFO flying straight towards me. It's triangular-like at the base, with another triangular tier above it, with a round dome on top. It flew low in the sky towards me without a sound, slowly zigzagging for a few minutes, then vanished. Fireworks don't fly silently, zigzagging. In the midst of me crying, I had just asked benevolent angels and aliens to always be with me as I was spending that holiday by myself. It worked and cheered me up, knowing that I am never alone. January 9th, 2016. Sandia came to me, needing my help. Sandia is an extraterrestrial from Zeta Reticuli. Sandia has abducted me before, and it was a loving and positive experience. January 11th, 2016, in the AM and throughout the morning, Sandia came to me. Sandia first came to me Saturday afternoon while I was watching football and told me, "I need your help." The next morning, Sandia came to me and said, "I need you to help me on the other side when you sleep because I can use your soul to fight for light." Concentric circles I see representing my individual and or collective Pleiadian soul is circling as my highest alien self works with Sandia and others to ignite the light to help and heal others, the Dawn Pantheon. Thus, I had a dream where an ET, a small gray with a jumpsuit, was given to me almost like it was a doll, but it was an ascended master sending light to the lower archons together with Enoch and other lights. January 12, 2016, Casadega, Florida is about 40 miles from home in Orlando, Florida. It is known as a psychic medium community. To be recognized as a registered psychic medium resident in Casadega, you must pass a battery of tests examining your proficiency with psychic abilities. Using tarot cards, Ouija boards, or cards of any kind disqualifies you automatically. I was driving through this cozy little community for the first time, enjoying the charming shops all around, when suddenly my car starts to make all these strange mechanical sounds, the likes of which I've never heard before. I feel prompted to stop in the middle of the one road that goes in and out of this small village. Tell my car out loud to cease all the racket, and I know where I am and everything will be okay. Okay, my car didn't make a peep throughout the remainder of my journey. January 19th, 2016, 6:32 p.m. On the bookshelf in my living room, I have a number of birthday cards with human-like alien creator gods on the outside cover. I stand them upright to face the couch so I can see them. One of these cards flew off of the shelf towards me, and I thought of Ray Hernandez, co-founder of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. Ray had recently visited Dr. Mitchell, who, in the time before his death, was suffering from some serious health problems. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, died on February 5th, 2016. The card flying towards me off of the shelf was a warning of what was to come. January 25th, 2016, 7:20 p.m. I'm in my backyard trying to organize witnesses to be on the Jimmy Church show, Fade to Black. While speaking with Audrey Hewins on the phone, I see off to the west of my house a UFO zigzag in an impossible flight pattern that would be impossible to do by contemporary modern-day aircraft. Simultaneously, I spot another UFO with flashing white lights in a clear sky that suddenly vanished. February 2nd, 2016, 7:45 a.m. The printer in my bedroom went off with the desktop turned off. Laying in bed, this is what I was thinking just prior to hearing the printer. I'll never forget. I can remember right after Travis was done with his Q&A. They, the blue beings, got up and walked straight to me as if it was a part of a preordained, premeditated plan. I saw them the whole time, even as they got out of their chairs. This is definitely a preordained contract. Imagine talking to someone, or in this case, a celestial being, for 7 to 10 minutes before you realize that their skin is blue. Why did it take that long? I can remember the second that I knew he was extraterrestrial. It finally dawned on me, his skin is blue. We made eye contact at that moment, and it soaked into the vast depth of my soul forever. Looking in his eyes, I traveled into a vortex where I was frozen in time. February 8th, 2016. I had just flown back from Big Bear Lake, California after attending the Alien Snowfest. I'm home now and it's almost midnight, and I decide to call into the Jimmy Church's Fade to Black show. Mike Barra was the speaker at the conference, and it's Jimmy's guest on the show talking about the Alien Snowfest. I call in and am on hold for over 10 minutes. Getting hungry, I go to my refrigerator and start to tear open a package of food. Jimmy immediately blames Mike for doing something to make the crinkling noise I was creating. Jumping in, I inform Jimmy and Mike that it's in fact me while I'm on hold attempting to get some food. Jimmy, scratching his head in bewilderment, says something to the effect that, "I don't get it. You're not registered on the soundboard, that's impossible." We then continue to say, "That's never happened before. Maybe we experienced a ghost in the machine, you think?" February 9th, 2016, 2:48 a.m. Dr. Edgar Mitchell came to me. He had just passed away on February 5th, 2016. Ironically, on the first day of the Alien Snowfest, UFO conference in Big Bear Lake, California, I had just attended. Remember that Mike Barra, one of the speakers, told me first. I felt an immediate sense of emptiness, as I am a consultant for Dr. Edgar Mitchell's FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. I never had the privilege of meeting Dr. Mitchell, but I felt close to him, witnessing his lasting legacy, his effect on experiencers. He told me from the other side that he died before his time expired because he and other lightworkers are needed on the other side. We are needed to make sure that disclosure is ushered in properly with the right intentions and with only benevolent factions of ETs orchestrating this globally changing event. Karen Christine Patrick, my editor, and I spoke of this channeled communication, and she said she has heard the same kind of comments from multiple mediums. February 11th, 2016. I'm on the show, Stargate Roundtable, with host Marietta Pickett. She's a brilliant host and has featured me as her guest many times. As the conversation is unfolding, I receive an email from Ray Hernandez, co-founder of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's FREE, the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. It's a cache of research broken down into pie charts conducted by the FREE Foundation on experiencers and their ET contact experiences. Curious how the email was sent sometime before Dr. Edgar Mitchell died, and I received the email exactly when I began speaking about receiving telepathic communications from Dr. Edgar Mitchell during his brief afterlife. February 12, 2016, 2:35 a.m. My training dark entity pays me a visit. I had a human body, but with a black cloak over its head and face. It was trying to harm me. I'm not sure how, but it was. Remember that my physical body lying on bed was paralyzed, and so was my body in my dream. I struggled so hard just to move but remain motionless. I then attempted to roll my body while lying down, and that eventually worked. I rolled over in bed right before this entity really began to hurt me, and immediately awakened. I then saw white morphing light swimming and dancing around in the air above my bed. I reached for it, swinging at it as if I was striking back. When I hit it, I then came to my senses, surrounding myself in the dark entity with God's effulgent, loving light. I prayed and meditated on being protected. Spooky this encounter proved to be. Then I remembered my guardians are always there to provide a safe haven when I entered their realm. Just then, my phone lit up with a DM from a girl I met at Alien Snowfest. She was scared while reaching out to me, asking me to shelter her from a malevolent storm of evil cast down upon her from some dark demon. She was convinced I could protect her, and I'm convinced that we encountered the same evil force. Vehemently, she requested that I don't repeat her name, as I will leave her anonymous. I'm not done with this entity. I will now summon Saint Germain to unleash his violent flame of transformation and transmutation and follow up with heavy doses of love and God light. Immediately following this encounter, I fell asleep, relaxed, knowing I'm always protected within the God light. The next day, I woke and contacted this girl to describe to her the demon I encountered. When I said it had a cloak over its head, kind of like one that is used for someone being hung, she said shivers ran down her spine because that was an exact description of him. He has since left her alone. February 15th, 2016, 6:15 p.m. I'm driving down State Road 50 into Winter Garden, Florida, and see a UFO. It looked like conventional aircraft, but then the flight path became curiously erratic. It was going south to north, then it vanished. In a perfectly clear day with no clouds, then reappeared flying east to west. February 27th, 2016. That evening I had a dream about the blue beings, except they were now all female. I went to a MUFON meeting earlier that day showcasing Kathy Martin and Denise Stoner as presenters. I was told telepathically by something I can't identify to ask them if they knew about the blue beings since they both spoke at Experiencers Speak Forward. I asked Kathy and she said no. I didn't have an appropriate chance to ask Denise. I was very disappointed, but the shining light that affected me the most during the meeting was Nancy Hewins, Audrey Hewins' mother. I met Nancy that evening and talked about the blue beings and other things. Her beautiful soul energy rubbed off on me and let me know that the meeting was an enormous spiritual success. We hugged and exchanged in a huge energy transfer. I saw beautiful dancing lights all around her head. Interestingly enough, I know I was abducted that night between 9 and 10 p.m. I see a point of light in the sky posing as a star, which was really a UFO. It revealed itself to me in the exact viewing geometry and angle of trajectory as the star was located. Half the time it was a star, the other half it was shaped as a white disk with a dome on top, with light smearing off of it as if it had an envelope signature around it. It would come closer to me, straight towards me, then revert back to its original orientation. When it did, it became just a point of light. Stars can't move like that. UFOs can. Next thing I know, I'm waking up on my couch with my front door wide open. I immediately recounted the dream I just spoke of and realized that I blacked out sometime earlier in the evening. A few days removed, I realized that Nancy Hewins is the gatekeeper to the Pleiadians, not us, meaning Audrey, Keith, nor I. Earlier that afternoon, after the MUFON meeting and before dark, I began seeing surveillance aircraft everywhere. Most of them were flying curiously low over my house to the point that I knew something was going on. They were so close to my home that I could see that many of these aircraft didn't have FAA catalog numbers or letters on them. It's always a sign of surveillance. I called Karen the next day and asked why and how they knew I would be abducted that night before it even happened. She replied saying that they were privy to the time loop and were expecting it to occur. That's why they had surveillance aircraft already in place so that they could take readings and conduct research. That made a lot of sense to me as I was learning about time-based surveillance that others in the ET research community had been experiencing. Let's go ahead and pause it there and go to our first music break. On this break, we have the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage with her band Antidote for Savages, and she'll be singing our new reality, Lemurian Crypto, Let Me Be Your Home and Your Skeleton. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break. Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight it's story time with me, TessaTNT, and we are reading Reverend John Polk's The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference. So I guess we should get back into it. Hope you're having a good Sunday, or Monday, whatever day it is, wherever you are. So it's March 5th, 2016 at 7:15 p.m. The thought, I am the mantis, popped into my head, and a big praying mantis-like being landed on my face. In the etheric sense, oral surveillance has been crazy lately over my house. March 6, 2016, 4:15 p.m. I walked by my house alarm on the wall and it went off, and then it just stopped. March 12, 2016, Byron Lacey was our guest on Aquarian Radio, and the Aquarian Radio Network is owned and operated by Janet Kira Lesson and her husband, Dr. Sasha Lesson. Byron is a full-on alien abductee since he was a child. We were on the show listening to his abduction stories, and I could feel my soul shifting in a major way. I was seeing orbs and anomalous lights dancing around in midair as his accounts were unfolding. Then around 9 p.m. my stomach started to hurt badly, soon followed by a horrible gas attack, so I promptly hung up my phone. I then found myself buried in the bathroom for at least 20 minutes. Prior to the show, Janet told me she was having issues with her soundboard. Curious, was it based on the events that followed? Exhausted from the stomach pain, I quickly called back into the show. It was on the line and I could hear everything, but no one could hear me. Janet was saying, I guess John took a break, but I was there the whole time. As a fellow abductee, I wanted so badly to ask Byron some very good questions that I knew would resonate with him, but I couldn't. This upset me deeply. Perplexed and frustrated, I dug deep within myself to try and figure out what happened and why. I arrived at the conclusion that listening to Byron was expanding my soul too much, and that I had to be removed from the interview in lieu of the questions I was going to ask. An ET caused this whole debacle to happen to me. I guess it was for my own good. April 18th, 2016, 7:30 a.m. Waking up, I am dominated by the thought, I am a vortex for spirits, ETs, and energy transfer. This went on for hours as this brain chatter had taken over. April 18th, 2016 at 9:30 p.m. I see flashes of light across the sky multiple times for at least 7 to 10 minutes. The entire sky lit up for a second or two and then dimmed as if it were lightning. However, there was not one cloud in the sky. There was nothing at all on the weather radar, and it was on the 60s last night. So it wasn't heat wave. It was reminiscent of what Ron Sharfy saw at Experiencers UFO conference after we saw more ETs. He went outside to take a phone call and saw a pulse of white light come off of the roof of the hotel. Ron interpreted it as being a ship taking off. After seeing these flashes of light, I recorded the following downloads. Just because you die doesn't mean you go to the universal godlike consciousness. You may get stuck recycling through a creator god alien's heaven for many lifetimes before going to the real godlight. Instead, you're trapped in Yahweh's false godlight thinking it's the real heaven. Remember, because you prayed to him, the biblical God, who is really an extraterrestrial in Christ, he owns your soul. The movies Clash of the Titans and The Mummy are modern-day examples of the gods taking and owning our souls. The higher heavenly gods command the souls of the lesser gods who control the planets. Your conduit of info is not just yours. Entities can use you and your soul as a spiritual medium portal for themselves for astral travel. Then introduce the gatekeepers. Your highest self is not necessarily your own gatekeeper for your soul. ETs and angels can travel through your own spiritual self and timeline. Enlil is ready to give up his fake version of heaven so he can ascend to a higher god hierarchy. I'm here to help him. This will mean a resurgence of consciousness. My mental self is my gatekeeper for me, within my own highest ET pantheon. I can fill him. He manufactures beings with and without souls. Time loop manipulation is easy and active now because of astrological space-time cycles coming full circle. The gods on Earth partied down because they could, and they knew how to allow the expansion of spirit to achieve new realms. Higher gods party less, or not at all. April 20th, 2016, 5:45 p.m. Something tells me to tune into HBO Family, and Happy Feet, the animated movie from 2006, is playing. The second I turn it on, they are asking the head penguin about aliens, and he says they are guiding him. I've never seen that movie before. It figures that I'd tune in right as they were asking about aliens. May 12, 2016 at 3 a.m. I'm having a dream and see some people I thought I knew, but I didn't, and I didn't recognize them as we were, all on the front porch of the house I grew up in Ormond Beach, Florida, before we moved to the condo on the ocean. The men in the group said to me, "Silver." For whatever reason, I then began to levitate in front of everyone, which might have been 4 or more people, some men, some women. Flying around no longer subject to the rules of gravity. The one who said "Silver," let's call him Silver, produced a handgun and began pointing it at me. Wrestling it away from him, I grabbed it, meaning to throw it in the woods on the other side of the road, and instead threw it diagonally across the street into the neighbor's yard. My neighbor saw me throw the weapon and immediately proceeded to take shelter in his home. Silver made a full circle to claim his handgun, and he did, then raced back towards my front door. Narrowly escaping, I slammed the door shut and proceeded to lock it as quickly as possible. Managing to pry open a window perpendicular to the front door of the house, I see his head peer around the corner with a gun in front of his eye, aiming to shoot me dead. Right then, my body jerked while I'm in bed dreaming, and I awakened to see a red flying saucer-like anomaly floating around in the air of my bedroom just off to and above the side of my bed. Curiously, this energetic being was shaped like a red flying saucer that was not a flat disc. Although it was flat on the bottom, it was raised in the center middle and had an ominous red glow energy signature, as if there was an envelope around it. I then quickly concluded that this was not, in fact, the red glowing UFO in my bedroom. It was an extra-dimensional that was astrally traveling through me. Waking up when I did, I had ejected it from my soul in concentric timeline time loops. Praying to the universal God consciousness to protect me, it worked, and the extra-dimensional vanished within a few minutes. May 14th, 2016. I'm having a dream where I'm in the same house that I grew up in Ormond Beach, Florida. I'm outside on the pool deck and see multiple low-flying UFOs right over my head and over the pool's screened-in enclosure. These UFOs resembled cars on a roller coaster engaged in similar movements. For example, they were twisting and turning while flying right over my head. Then a different UFO appeared. It was shaped more like a plane with wings. On the bottom side of one of the wings was a symbol that I could clearly remember. The craft was white with a black circle on the underside of the wing. It was white inside the circle, and then in the middle of the circle was a dark blue embossed square that looked like a stepped pyramid, with half of the top shaved off. To me, it felt like it was a laser. There was other writing on the same bottom side of the wing, however. I can't exactly remember what it said. As best I can recall, there were numbers and letters like that of a catalog number for aviation. May 23rd, 2016 at 1:41 p.m. A dark spirit entered my left temple. I pulled it out, and it hurt for a few. It's not uncommon for me to try to meditate or simply sitting on the couch, and an entity will try to walk in or enter me. This usually occurs through my head, more specifically my temples. I can feel it. Discomfort usually accompanies this invasive, supernatural breach of my body, mind, and soul. Like I mentioned, I can usually feel it, and when I do, I'll grab it with my hand and literally pull it out of me before it cocoons inside myself. May 24th, 2016, 10 p.m. I see two points of light, maybe 100 feet apart, over my neighbor's house to the north of me. These 2 points of light were perhaps 100 feet over the house. The one over the left part of the house was green, and the one over the right part of the house was red. There was a third light which was white and was on the same height off the ground as the other two lights. This one, however, was stationary on a tree. I walked out of my backyard towards the lights, and they moved backwards as I moved forward. As I retreated backwards towards my house, the lights reverted back to their original point of origin. I quit focusing on the white light, which was maybe 200 feet to the east of the green and red lights. These lights remained illuminated for some time. Toying with the idea of getting my digital camera in attempts of capturing footage, I took a leap of faith, as I hardly ever seemed to record anything anomalous. Usually in the past, when I've used the camera, the UFO or unexplained phenomenon ceased its activity. This time was destined to be different. I dug out my $1,600 camera, which I hadn't used in over a year because of the UFOs vanishing from my sight, and second, placed it on the tripod. Placing the video camera on the tripod, to my surprise, the lights were still visible. It was roughly 10 p.m., and the lights were bright and clear. This must have gone on for an hour. Closer to 11 p.m., the lights started to bob up and down. This captured my attention. I began extending my hands towards the lights and moved them up and down with the lights. Perhaps a minute later, I was remotely commanding the lights to continue, moving up and down, coinciding with my hand movements. This occurred for a few minutes, and I recorded all of it. I went into my home for a minute and returned outside only to discover that the lights were gone. I was completely elated with this encounter, as I've never been able to get anything this good on camera. Prior to the sighting, I had a lengthy conversation with Karen Christine Patrick about Michael Lee Hill. For those unfamiliar with Michael Lee Hill, he is a longtime experiencer with apparent ties to the Anunnaki. Karen and I talked about Michael's UFO sightings over Lake Erie and the footage that he has captured on camera. There's no coincidence that after years of trying, I finally captured something definitive on video. I always knew I would. June 1st, 2016. Contact TV on YouTube and EarthMrNews.com with Leslie Mitchell Clark and co-host Wes Roberts conducted an interview with me on that Wednesday. Otherworldly, it was as clear at the conclusion of our show Leslie saw an angel over my shoulder, and herein lies her follow-up email on June 5th, 2016. Also, John, I have meditated on the lovely being that I felt and saw in my inner mind in your home, and remembered that roughly a year ago, first time that you were on Contact Radio, I had a vivid dream, more like a lucid dream or a remote viewing astral projection experience. In my dream, I found myself on another planet, but very similar to Earth, and much like Northern Europe in the summer, ancient verdant forests and lots of water. I was greeted by a beautiful being who called herself Hekat, or something very like that. We were both totally physical, and I perceived her to be slightly taller than myself when we were side by side, and she asked me to walk with her to her living zone. She was wearing an off-white flowing but simple Greco-Roman gown made from some synthetic material, and she had platinum blonde hair, golden skin, and slightly Asian-looking golden eyes. She also had a slightly large head and high forehead, but otherwise looked quite humanoid and very beautiful. We walked along a wooded ridge until we were looking down into a lush valley, and on a beautiful, strange village city. It was dusk, and all of the roofs were either conical or domed, and every roof was glowing blue, so that the whole city village was pleasantly illuminated. The buildings and structures appeared to be made of some beige polymer, so although comprised of these unusual materials, the village had a charming medieval feel to it, or a bit like Reverend in Lord of the Rings. I also recall luminous water in a river that bisected the city and village like Budapest. When I awoke from this trip, I was sitting up in bed and it was early morning. When I told Wes about this dream days later, he pointed out that there is an important Egyptian goddess named Hekat, who has a triple identity and is often represented by three faces. I can tell you that the beautiful being that I traveled to meet a year ago was the same being that I sensed/felt behind you during our interview, for she looked that way to me. Coincidence? I doubt it. June 6, 2016, 4:47 p.m. The door alarm beeped. I have an alarm on my house, but if you open certain doors, a beep will sound from the main control unit to let you know that door is open. Sometimes the spirit world will mess with me by sounding it on purpose. June 6, 2016, 8:03 p.m. Higher self, quit using me. I can feel my concentric lives acting upon and influencing my life in 3D Earth plane. Often I can sense that my higher self is attempting to borrow energy, karma, or something else that I can't identify from me. My less evolved self, which vibrates at a lesser frequency. June 7, 2016, I saw a UFO. June 7, 2016, my highest creator God alien self has killed people in the grand scheme of things in my past. It just made me cry as I just astrally relived it. June 22nd and 23rd, 2016, 5:30 a.m. Obviously, I'm staying up crazy late and I'm wide awake. I'm trying to see a UFO, but I'm not having any luck. The sun is slowly peeking up over the eastern horizon when something captures my attention, and I look to the west of my house from my backyard and can see a UFO within its own cloaking device. It wasn't that far away, maybe less than a half a mile. I can see light bent around its envelope. It is definitely there. June 25th, 2016, 7:30 a.m. The printer in my room went off a few times. Bear in mind my computer was turned off and I was laying in bed. June 26, 2016, 3 a.m. I see a UFO a few miles to the west of my house. It's coming towards me, straight towards me very slowly. I capture it within my own eyes and I'm fascinated. Unlike a few nights ago, this one wasn't cloaking itself and wanted me to see it. Overwhelmed I am with feelings of joy. I feel totally safe and protected by it, as if it is familiar to me. I believe they have taken me before. It approached me to a point where it is maybe a half a mile away. Then it stopped for a second and then went backwards in the exact same path as it approached. I don't remember anything after that as I woke up around 11:30 a.m. I ended up sleeping in until 3 p.m. that afternoon. I never do that unless I was abducted the night before. July 8th, 2016, 9:50 p.m. Another successful episode of Aquarian Radio with guest Julie Thayer, aka the Feline Philosopher. Janet Les and Karen Christine Patrick and I just finished. I then make a call to Vinny Cossis, an Arcturian hybrid and author of Cult Child, as we had planned to have a phone conversation. Vinny began telling me her story of being in a cult in Alaska as a child and then phased into why she believes she is an Arcturian hybrid. As this conversation was unfolding, I am pulled outside, drawn upwards to gaze upon the stars. I see 3 low lights in a triangular formation, coming towards me, flashing at different times, less than 1,000 feet in elevation, traveling from north to south. The formation was shaped like the apex of a pyramid, with the apex point leading the way. These lights appeared to be independent of one another instead of 3 lights in one ship. They start to approach my house, and then they simply vanish without making a sound. Immediately following, I see flashes of light resembling that of heat lightning pulsing from a location of what seemed to be directly over my house. I interrupt Vinny to tell her what's happening, and she paused for a second and asked me how did the sighting make me feel. I replied that it felt positive and it made me feel good. We continued our conversation for some time, and we both felt energized and inspired by what just took place. Plus, the energies exchanged by our discussion were overly powerful. I know us conversing about her being an Arcturian hybrid was the whole catalyst to the UFO visiting me while we were talking about her extraterrestrial origins. About 2 a.m. that same night, I'm still outside scanning the stars in hopes of a return UFO visit or something anomalous occurring. From the north-northwest of my house, I see a very low flying drone approaching me from a similar direction as the UFO did, and just like with the previous sighting, there was no sound. Mind you, this is 4 hours removed from the initial sighting, and I hadn't seen anything since close to 10 p.m. earlier that evening. I'd seen drones chasing UFOs over my house before, but this was different. It was very long with an egg-shaped nose and a cigar-shaped fuselage. There were radial arms coming out of the fuselage every 5 feet or more. Fixated on this object as if we were both in the same steel trap, it occurs to me to go inside and get my camera. I was sitting and could move my arms, legs, and body, but I could not stand up. I tried and tried, but to no avail. I could not lift my butt out of the chair. All of a sudden, I black out, and then see the object flying away from me in the exact same direction from which it came. A losing time episode just occurred because I never observed the object turning around. I then see the object's tail end trail off beyond the treetops out of my sight. Once it was out of my sight, I immediately stood up and was very angry. I said to myself, "You are never going to take control of me again." I said this over and over with vehement conviction. One huge positive is that during this encounter I actually had some of my faculties about me. Usually what happens if I try to get my camera during a sighting, I end up not doing anything, and then after the fact I go, "I can't believe I missed that opportunity. Next time I'll be on it." This time I was coherent until it was maybe 500 feet away from me, and I tried to retrieve my camera. That's when I lost it. September 22nd, 2015. Death showed me my God is an alien. I was attending the wake of a friend who was very close to me. His father died in 2009 and his mother died in 2015. Curiously, he died out of nowhere with no warning at the age of 68, a few months after his mother passed away. During the wake, there must have been between 300 and 400 people who arrived to pay their condolences to the family. I was standing close to the family members for the majority of the wake. It was incredibly sad and gut-wrenching to see everybody crying. Amidst all the heavy emotion in the room, I began hearing multiple voices in my head simultaneously. One voice prevailed above all others, saying, "I have to tell you something. I have to tell you something." At this juncture, I chose to sit on one of the pews with a vantage point where I could see my friend and his open casket, but still off at a distance of maybe 20 feet. His face was visible from where I was located. I then began to search for his soul and open up a supernatural communication with his recently departed God, self. I achieved contact easily as I could see him hovering maybe 10 feet over his own body. This begs the question, what exactly did I see? He was not clearly defined with an obvious human form. He more resembled an ever-changing mass of bright and bent light with a warm, familiar feeling to me that was undeniable. Happiness poured from his being as he loved how many family, friends, fellow churchgoers, and community business associates showed to pay their last respects. This man was a great man who loved his family, was a pillar of stability in the church, and a very successful business professional. He was loved and revered by all who knew him, although he would only speak his mind whether you wanted to hear what he had to say or not. I'm going to miss him, continuing to try to send me telepathically, as he was no longer of this earth dimension. I heard too many other voices bleeding through as I was reading him and others at the same time. Now sending to him as a spirit on the other side, I asked him to please tell me later when there are not so many people around so I can fashion a clear channel. September 23rd, 2015, 8:30 a.m. Laying in bed in my hotel that morning, my friend comes to me and tells me that the Bible is not real. He said, "I feel so stupid. I've been praying to aliens my whole life and I didn't even know it." Consoling him, I responded, "Don't feel stupid. The God you know is real and has always been a benevolent God who loves us all. It's all about your intentions, and yours are honest and sincere." His parents, having gone to the light, are there trying to help him cross over to the other side and merge with the real God light. Furthermore, his mother and father let him know that the Bible is really about aliens deceiving we humans into thinking that God is portrayed in the Bible. In reality, my friend is now faced with is that the biblical God is in fact Yahweh, the creator God alien. It dawns on my friend in his brief afterlife that he's been praying to biblical aliens his whole life, including God, Jesus, the apostles, and the archangels. He now realizes that intention is what transcends your soul to the real heaven, not extraterrestrial fashioned religions based on fear and control. My friend told his wife right before he died about biblical passage Luke 24. To paraphrase, Jesus said that he's not a ghost, that he is the Son of God, that he's a human being and he's a human-alien hybrid that I spoke of in my first book. Yahweh, the biblical God, is an alien. When Christ's dear friend Lazarus died, he wept just like a human being. Jesus is more human than we know because he is part human with gene from the Virgin Mary and part alien from Yahweh's supernatural genome. However, I do believe that Jesus was sent by Yahweh to love us, lead us, and teach us Christianity, which of course means to worship Yahweh and his human alien hybrid son, Christ. Jesus was instrumental in directing prayer, energy, and souls to Yahweh through Yahweh's handcrafted religion, Christianity. Yahweh realized that it was easier to obtain followers with Jesus through love instead of threatening humans with death, hell, and damnation if they don't obey his every commandment and order. My friend's parents warned him from the other side about getting cycled through Yahweh's afterlife soul recycling program, in other words, his fake version of heaven. It is within the realm of the supernatural afterlife that a soul can be reincarnated hundreds of times within Yahweh's and other creator God alien false heavens before ascending to the real God light. However, my friend successfully eluded it and went straight to the light first before his soul could be taken. He then said some Christians will get it when they die. Most don't. Most Christians end up in Yahweh's soul recycling and soul migration program to make him more powerful. Lesser gods rule the earth and the other planets, higher gods rule the heavens. Creator gods do require souls to gain spiritual power, but there comes a point where this makes them weak and thwarts their ascension process towards being a higher god because it is achieved through deception of less evolved life forms, such as we humans. Part of my friend's passing was so that he and I can help Yahweh and other creator god aliens break this cycle by sharing awareness with the world about the supernatural afterlife phenomenon. We humans need to let the alien gods go as their religions divide us. We must learn to embrace the one God or source that we can call the universal God consciousness, which is where all of our God selves or souls originate and where we are all forever a part of this infinite energetic omniverse. September 24th, 2015. I'm on a plane waiting to take off to go home from the airport after the funeral. I see two UFOs while stationary on the tarmac. They are two little red points of light curiously merging together to form one red point of light. At first I thought I was witnessing a mid-air collision close to an airport. I then quickly realized that what I had witnessed was something truly spectacular, and these crafts did not originate from planet Earth. Jesus, the Anunnaki god in the Bible, is the god that kills people. Exodus 11, God murdered the firstborn Egyptian sons, children. What benevolent God slaughters innocent youth, even babies? An alien creator god that posed as the supreme being, the grand architect of the universe. He goes by many names such as God, Elohim, Jehovah, Yahweh. But who is he really? Everyone ready for this? God in the Bible and the Hebrew Bible is in fact an alien creator god named Enlil of the Anunnaki. The word Anunnaki actually translates into from heaven to earth they came. This leads me to my next point, which is the Anunnaki extraterrestrial ruler of the earth, Enlil, established multiple religions including Judaism and Christianity, so that we humans would pray to him and worship him. Receiving our prayer energy in life and taking ownership of our souls when we passed away, our soul would literally cycle through Enlil's version of heaven numerous times before we travel to the universal godlight and consciousness. Imagine the exponential amount of prayer energies and souls Enlil possessed. Prayer energy not just from Earth, but from planets, stars, and even spaceships from all over the galaxy and omniverse. How many deities, including Jesus Christ, were implanted on multiple stars around the universe? The omniverse. Therefore, Enlil's handcrafted deity, Jesus Christ, all the archangels, the fallen angels, most biblical patriarchs and figures are aliens or hybrids of his Anunnaki bloodline, genetics, and lineage. However, their genetic makeup was watered down to some extent so that they did not possess all the extra immortal powers that Enlil commands. Putting all that into perspective, Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, he is the genetic creator of Enlil of the Anunnaki. According to Zechariah Sitchin, the Anunnaki created the Adamu, which were human-alien hybrids made to be slave species to mine gold, other minerals, and ores. The Adamu became known as Adam of the biblical Adam and Eve. Jesus Christ was created in a slightly different manner. Enlil took a sample of his own DNA to give Christ his supernatural gifts and abilities. He then used the Virgin Mary as a surrogate and used a sample of her DNA to make Christ more human and humane. Enlil then placed a part of his own omnipotent God self or soul into Jesus Christ so that he could live a multidimensional existence within his own hierarchical self. Therefore, Jesus is a direct product of Enlil and the Anunnaki. Chapter 7, Contactee Poem. Poems were likely downloads. Writing, especially when I was a youth, was one of the ways that I was trying to come to terms with my experiences. Sometimes something can be said poetically or in a painting or other arts that would be hard to say, harder even to believe in prose. I believe I am channeling aliens and angels in my writing. My out-of-body experience is the title. Piercing a hole into empty space, I split the heavens to create my own orifice in the universe. I reach inside to pull out handfuls of cosmic secrets that no one's supposed to know. Then as the stars twinkle, along with ambition in my eyes, I smile to enlighten the face of space that highlights lost perception. Ultimately, I fathomed the depths within, absorbing non-physical reality. With every inhale, stellar dust settles at the mouth of the orifice to shade my prior perceptions. But now, in light of my new beginning, I lose myself in the bottomless void, providing me a crystal clear vision. To see the source of starry lights and cosmic corridors, I spoil myself with quenching perceptions that moisten my eyes of stone. But then as I look away from immortal glamour, I see over my shrugging shoulders a speck of reality's light. In bitter conceit, I lift my nose and turn my back at what's no longer me. Surging ahead, a sail in the solar winds, I stand high in the sky to cloud the clusters of memories far below. Looking high upon sensation, the elevated spirit's attentions are easily drawn to the universal light. Captivated, its luster pulls me in like a metal to a magnet, and I have no control. Getting closer, my ghostly robe streams behind while ruffling in the winds, and now the light shines through me as I emerge within its brilliance. Finally, I'm perfectly in tune with the universe and nothing is out of reach. But then, to my complete surprise, the weight of my head starts pulling me down. Then as I tense my neck and lift my head to fall from the plateau of subconsciousness, I awaken to be filled with the breath of reality and memories from high in the skies. This inspired piece came from somewhere out of this world. I wrote it in 5 minutes back in 1990, when I was a junior at FSU. What I think is that when you write with certain brilliance and ease, often you are channeling a spirit or an alien. This was written decades before I understood what it meant. I know what it means now. What's your interpretation? Chapter 8, The Blue Beings, The Existence of the Blue Beings by Brett Cullen Shepard. My experience. It was very late one evening on a breezy spring eve when I had realized I hadn't been to sleep in days. I was sitting in a chair and my 3 dogs began to act strangely, barking at the wall and wincing. I felt an enormous vibration come over me. It felt like an earthquake encompassing my being, when suddenly she appeared without warning right in my face. Yet I wasn't intimidated. It was a loving yet powerful being that I did not invoke. She said nothing at all. She was the deepest blue I'd ever seen, a very deep supernatural blue. She grabbed my face and put one finger to my lips and made a shh noise. Eyes were at half-mast on her strangely homomorphic face. I was overwhelmed with the feeling that I was alive and would never die, in a sense. She was, without a doubt, some kind of deity. Words could not do justice to. Perhaps she was an alien being, or perhaps the Earth goddess Bridget. I don't know. What I do know is that being is a reality to me now. I also saw later that night a shimmering blue priestess in my dream who was in a cavern, but the shining one was just a dream. If this was a hallucination, I can surely accept that, but it was so real that it changed my life and then began the downloads of sacred geometric technology, such as the Merkaba, seen through light, information from the sun. I knew after that in an experience just like the East Indian Hindus that there was no such thing as death and that I was part of something much bigger than myself in the liberating sense. I felt connected so personally with these earth spirits that I feel are the protectors of humanity and earth. After this incredible experience, I began to research everything I could get my hands on about the blue people or spirits. It is my understanding that there is a genetic view of this and a spiritual connection. The Eastern Hindus view as spiritual and the blue color as symbolic to them, related to a perception of the color of infinity. What I saw did not fit into either category. The Eastern Indian and tribes of Peru think of their deities' color being from dark blue to black, and they think of their devils as being white in color. I find it an interesting bias overall. Most European descendants think of their gods and goddesses as being from blue to white in color, and their demons and devils are dark color. Human perception has a lot to do with the spiritual and program side of what colors gods and goddesses are. Then there is the distinct human experience, which throws all conventional views out the window. Human experience is the physical, life-changing aspect to all this. I can tell you from first-hand knowledge that the blue beings exist at least on a shared plane of existence. But unless experienced for one's own self, it is futile to explain in too much detail to someone who never had a familiar or similar experience. I gleaned much from that instance, as these dramatic experiences often do, and one of those things was a spirituality that made sense to me without program bias. Spiritual aspects of blue people. From the Hindu blog, Hindu Gods in Blue Color, why avatars of Hindu gods are shown as having blue color. In Hinduism, gods like Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Lord Shiva are shown as having blue or dusky skin. The color of the skin is shown as either blue or sometimes black. Hindu religion is full of symbolisms, and the blue color is also a symbol. Most avatars of Hindu gods are also shown in blue color. Blue is the color of the infinite. All Hindu gods are an attempt by the human mind to give form to the formless Brahm god. Brahman. The color blue symbolizes immeasurable and all-pervading reality, formless Brahman. Swami Chinmayananda, talking on the subject, says that whatever is immeasurable can appear to the moral eye only as blue. Thus, the cloudless summer sky is blue to us because the endless distance of space is interpreted by the physical eye as blue in color. The blue color thus teaches us that what appears as Lord Vishnu, Krishna, and Shiva is the all-pervading reality. Brahman, the supreme reality, takes a particular form to satisfy the human mind. Alright, let's stop there and go to our second music break, where once again we have the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage with her band Antidote for Savages. And she's going to be singing Not a Phase, Bury Me in Heaven, Singing to Your Grave, and The Bottom Line. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
safe. That ransom letter.
right now between fear and love.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we have been doing story time with me, TessaTNT, and we have been reading The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference by Reverend John Polk. And I'm thinking we might get through this tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Article Goddess Kali from Journeying to the Goddess. It's a blog, journeyingtothegoddess.wordpress.com, and it says, Shiva and Kali are said to inhabit these places because it is our attachment to the body that gives rise to the ego. Shiva and Kali grant liberation by removing the illusion of the ego. Thus we are the eternal I am and not the body. Very similar to Bridget and the other natural earth goddesses, Swami Vivekananda said, the god of infinite love and the object of love sublime and infinite are painted blue. Krishna is painted blue, so also Solomon's god of love. It is a natural law that anything sublime and infinite is associated with blue color. Take a handful of water. It is absolutely colorless, but look at the deep white ocean. It is as blue as anything. Examine the space near you. It is colorless, but look at the infinite expanse of the sky. It is blue. Most Eastern Indians believe that anything infinite is depicted by blue, like ocean and sky. That is why Krishna, Shiva are depicted in blue. Not that their skin is actually blue according to modern interpretations. Physical characteristics, eye color origins. I am one of those people who has blue eyes. One thing I can observe is that blue eye color is not recessive, quite the opposite. Otherwise there would be not many blue-eyed people in the world. But here are those, a blue-eyed forgotten tribe. What I can say about the study of this phenomenon, much more fascinating, is that scientists estimate the origin of the blue eyes did not exist past 10,000 years back in history. In other words, I think these traits are physical clues as to the arrival of a human wave of extraterrestrials, either physically from ships or by the spiritual technology in Merkaba. I further believe that my particular ancestors arrived near the Black Sea, specifically near Romania, along the Danube River basin. It would take an entire book to tell why I think that, and I am only asked to contribute one article. Around 6,000 years ago, we moved from the matriarchal earth religion to a more patriarchal system, such as worshipping the old Pelagian ancient Greek gods. The world worshipped nature at the beginning of this incursing, or wave. I believe that this trait in humanity was inherited from a space-faring race. Even if we were to entertain the most racist, eugenicist, Darwinian theories, we would have to ultimately conclude that all the tribes of the earth do not physically come from the same original beings, rather separate waves. This is observable in the diversity of genetic life from the universe. In other words, we did not come from the same space monkey. Another fact for survival was dealing with the sunlight from our local sun, Sol. For melanin-deficient races from space who evolved under the sun or mothership light source that had different light frequencies, this was a great challenge and a great reason to get biological help from those who already were used to the light from the sun. I believe until some of our ancestors overcame this barrier by interbreeding with the natives, they were living underground, or as my ancestors referred to it, the underworld. Today all races on this earth have a shared rich and diverse ancestry, and no matter the complexity, as we are all from source. From the Humans Are Free blog, the origin of blue eyes, the ancient gods, and their royal descendants. So this is under humansarefree.com. Studies carried out by scientists from the Institute of Forensic Genetics at the University of Copenhagen have concluded that all blue-eyed people share a common ancestor, someone who lived 6,000 to 10,000 years ago near the area by the Black Sea. Well, that's interesting. Researchers analyzed and compared the unique genetic makeup of the chromosomes in the iris from 155 blue-eyed individuals from diverse regions such as Denmark, Turkey, and Jordan. All of the subjects that participated in the study had the exact same genetic mutations in specific chromosomes of the eye with very little variation on the genes, indicating that the mutation responsible for blue eyes first arose and spread relatively recently. Dravidian Blue People. In India, there is a race of people whose skin color is blue-black. They suffer somewhat in the caste system there that favors the lighter-skinned look that is considered to be more favorable. From the website Hindu Books, http://www.hindubooks.org/ The Dravidians in Vedic and Puranic Lore by David Frawley. Some Vedic texts like the Aitareya Brahmana and the Manu Samhita have looked at the Dravidians as people outside of the Vedic culture. However, they do not look at them as indigenous or different people, but as fallen descendants of Vedic kings. Notably, Vishwamitra. These same books and texts look upon some people of North India, including some groups from Bengal, as also outside of Vedic culture, even though such people were Indo-European in language. Other texts like the Ramayana portray the Dravidians, the inhabitants of Kishkinda, modern Karnataka, as allies of Aryan kings like Rama. The Vedic Rishi Agastya is also often portrayed as one of the progenitors of the Dravidian peoples. Hence there appears to have been periods in history when the Dravidians, or some portion of them, were not looked on with favor by some followers of Vedic culture. But this was largely temporary. If we look through the history of India, there has been some time when almost every part of India has been dominated for a period of unorthodox traditions like Buddhist, Jain, or Persian, Zoroastrian, not to mention outside religions like Islam or Christianity, or dominated by other foreign conquerors like the Greeks, the Scythians, Shakas, or the Huns. The Gujarat was a once suspect land of Vedic people when it was under Jain domination does not cause us to turn the Gujaratis into another race or religion. That something similar happened to the Dravidians at some point in history does not require making something permanently non-Aryan about them. In the history of Europe for people, that Austria once went through a Protestant phase does not cause modern Austrians to consider that they cannot be Catholics. The kings of South India, like the Chola and Pandya dynasties, relate their lineages back to Manu. Matsya Purana, moreover, makes Manu an progenitor of all the Aryas, originally the South Indian king Satyavrata. Hence, there are not only traditions that make the Dravidians descendants of Vedic rishis and kings, but those that make the Aryans of North India descendants of Dravidian kings. The two cultures are so intimately related that it is difficult to say which came first. Any differences between them appear to be secondary and nothing like the great racial divide that the Aryan-Dravidian idea has promoted. The Moon-Eyed People. I think the Native American stories have vital information about the history on North America. Almost all of the stories are dismissed as myth by academic consensus reality. I say to that. I believe that our ancestors of all types should be respected in that they were eyewitnesses to history, and it's our job to listen and learn. The information was passed as oral history, so is not as respected academically as that which is written down, but it was the living history of eyewitnesses keeping their stories alive through the genetic memory. One such story might have something to do with our other Blue People accounts. Published October 5th, 2011 by Blue Waters. You can find this bluewaters.ntnl.com/Cherokee-legend-of-the-blue-eye-people / In the long, long ago, before the Cherokee came from their homeland of great snakes and water monsters to the mountains of blue smoke and sparkling streams, so said the old men, there lived in these beautiful hills and glades a race of men who were not Cherokee. These men had white skin, bearded faces, and blue eyes like the sky, and they were here even before the lusty Spaniards who came seeking gold. I believe he is talking about the Vikings and where the blue-eyed Indians came from. They possessed all the land from the Little Tennessee River to Kentucky, with a line of fortifications from one end of their domain to the other. These white men lived in little houses of logs and mud, dug out from the inside, and they never emerged from their rounded dwellings in the daytime because they were blinded by light. They came out only at night in the dark of the moon to hunt, fish, build their mounds and fortifications, and carry on warfare. During the full moon they were stone blind, and so they were called the moon-eyed people. Once at the full moon, said the old men, the Creeks came up from the south and drove the moon-eyed people from their beautiful homeland. From where they came and where they went are equal mysteries, but it is told that they were driven far to the west toward the setting sun, and vanished into its light. There is no proof that such a people ever existed, and there is no valid explanation for the crumbling mounds, such as the one near Franklin, and fortifications that the Cherokee totally disclaim. There are several legends that seek to unravel the mystery. One tale is that the moon-eyed people were small folk, white, who lived at the mouth of Peachtree Creek near Murphy. As they could not cross the creek because the great leak who inhabited its waters would swallow them up, they went west in time before history. Another story says the moon-eyed people were the ones that sailed the Prince Madoc in about 1170, finally reached this land and settled in the Great Smokies. And still another tells of a people, white, bearded, and blind in the light, who lived on the Hiwassee, built mounds and fortifications for some unknown reason, went west before the coming of the Cherokee. Brett. One theory I personally have is that the Cruthanes, Picts, or painted people from Scotland and Ireland may have something to do with the blue-skinned people seen by the Cherokee tribes. The tattoos of the Picts were all over their bodies and might have been of blue ink or possibly black ink that turned blue over time, as tattoos often do still, or that a few tribes of humans must have blue skin as others have other tones. They just are so few in number or hidden away that we only know about them through stories. There was a blue baby I remember watching a show about, and it's because the heart and the arteries and veins and stuff from the heart were backwards, so it caused the baby to be blue instead of pink. And then I think they reversed that, and then the baby was pink again. I don't know, that was pretty cool. And I recently saw a guy that was blue skinned, like really, really blue. I can't remember how he did it though. Physical and genetic aspects of the blue people. The Blue People of Troublesome Creek, the story of an Appalachian malady, an inquisitive doctor, and a paradoxical cure, by Kathy Trost, Science 82, November 1982. And this is from indiana.edu, and blues, the blues, lessons, etc. It all started over 6 generations ago after a French orphan named Martin Fugates claimed a land grant in 1820 and settled on the banks of eastern Kentucky's Troublesome Creek. With his red-headed American bride, the former Elizabeth Smith, whose skin was as pale as the mountain laurel that blooms every spring around the creek hollows. The Fugates had 7 children, 4 were reported to be blue. The clan kept multiplying. Fugates married other Fugates. Sometimes they married first cousins, and they married the people who lived closest to them. The Combses, Smiths, Riches, and Stacys. All lived in isolation from the world, bunched in log cabins up and down the hollows. And so it was only natural that a boy married the girl next door, even if she had the same last name. When they settled this country back then, there was no roads. It was hard to get out, so they intermarried, says Dennis Stacy, who counts Fugate blood in his own veins. Martin and Elizabeth Fugate's blue children multiplied in this natural isolation tank. The marriage of one of their blue boys, Zachariah, to his mother's sister triggered the line of succession that would result in the birth, more than 100 years later, of Benji Stacy. When Benji was born with purple skin, his relatives told the perplexed doctors about his great-grandmother, Luna Fugate. One relative described her as blue all over, and another calls Luna the bluest woman I ever saw. Luna's father, Levi Fugate, was one of Zachariah Fugate's sons. Levi married a Ritchie girl and bought 200 acres of rolling land along Ball Creek. The couple had 8 children, including Luna. A fellow by the name of John Stacy spotted Luna at Sunday services of the old regular Baptist church before the turn of the century. Stacy courted her, married her, and moved from Troublesome Creek to make a living in timber on her daddy's land. John Stacy still lives on Lick Branch of Ball Creek. Stacy recalls that his father-in-law, Levi Fugate, was part of the family that showed blue. All them old fellers way back then was blue. One of them, I remember seeing them when I was just a boy. Blue Ains, they called them. Most of them old people went by that name, the Blue Fugates. They run in that generation who lived up and down Old Creek. They looked like anybody else except they had the blue color, Stacy said. The bluest Fugates I ever saw was Luna and her kin, said Carrie Lee Kilburn, a nurse at the Rural Medical Center called Humphrey Center. Luna was bluish all over. Her lips were as dark as a bruise. She was a woman, as blue as a woman as I ever saw. Luna Stacy possessed the good health and common to be the blue people, bearing at least 13 children before she died at 84. Holy crap. The clinic rarely saw her, and never for anything serious. Benji Stacy was born in a modern hospital near Hazard, Kentucky, not far from Troublesome Creek. He inherited his father's lankiness and his mother's red hair, but what he got from his great-great-great-grandfather was dark blue skin.
I'm scared about the chickens. What do you want them to for me?
They're fine. I closed the door and they stayed out there last night. They're fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're all cuddled together.
Yeah, I just got scared.
Yeah, I just went out and closed the coop door for the chickies, and then closed up the coop for the big chicks too. So they're all good. They're cute and cuddled together. And a little mound of chicks.
Love you.
Love you too. Let's see. He inherited his father's lankiness and his mother's red hair, but what he got from his great-great-great-grandfather was dark blue skin. The doctors were astonished, not so the parents, but the boy was rushed off to a medical clinic in Lexington, University of Kentucky Medical School. 2 days of tests showed no cause for Benji's blue skin. Benji's grandmother Stacy asked the doctors if they had heard of the blue Fugates of Troublesome Creek. Put on that track, they concluded that Benji's condition was inherited. Benji lost his blue tint within a few weeks, and now he is about as normal a 7-year-old boy as you might imagine. His lips and fingernails still turn a purplish blue when he gets cold or angry, and that trait was exploited by the medical students back when Benji was an infant. Poor Benji. Is the blue Kachina a blue being? Ooh. I've seen the blue Kachina. I read an interesting perspective in the book Last Cry Native American Prophecies and Tales of the End Times by Dr. Robert Ghost Wolf, 1994 through 2004. Thanks to Greg Prescott for posting on the 5D website. The Hopi believe Nanga Sahu is the chasing star Katsina. The Sumerians believed Nin Girsu to be the master of starships. In India, the name of Shiva, a blue deity, is Nagesh. The story of the blue Kachina is a very old story, very old. I've been aware of the story of the blue Kachina since I was very young. I was told the story by grandfathers who are now between 80 and 108 years of age. Frank Waters also wrote about Sakwasuha, the blue star Kachina, in the Book of the Hopi. story came from Grandfather Don, or Dan, the oldest Hopi. It was told to me that the first blue kachina would start to be seen at the dances, and would make his appearance known to the children in the plaza during the night dance. This event would tell us that the end times are very near. Then the blue star kachina would physically appear in our heavens, which would mean that we were in the end times. In the final days, we will look up in our heavens and we will witness the return of the two brothers who helped create this world in the birthing time. Logan Koya is the guardian of our North Pole, and his brother Kolangahoya is the guardian of the South Pole. In the final days, the blue star Kachina will come to be with his nephews, and they will return the Earth to its natural rotation, which is counterclockwise. Oh no! This fact is evidenced in the petroglyphs that speak of the zodiac and within the Mayan and Egyptian pyramids. The rotation of the Earth has been manipulated by not so benevolent star beings. The twins will be seen in our northwestern skies. They will come and visit to see who still remember the original teachings, flying in their patuvulkas or flying shields. They will bring many of their star family with them in the final days. The return of the blue star Kachina, who is also known as Nangasapu, will be the alarm clock that tells us of the new day and new way of life, a new world that is coming. This is where the changes will begin. They will start as fires that burn within us, and we will burn up with desires and conflict if we do not remember the original teachings and return to the peaceful way of life. Not far behind the twins will come the purifier, the red Kachina, who will bring the day of purification. On this day, the earth, her creatures, and all life as we know it will change forever. There will be messengers that will precede this coming of the purifier. They will leave messages to those on earth who remember the old ways. I really distinctly remember those two Kachinas when I worked at a trading post in Cortez, Colorado, and I'd have to clean the shelves and stuff and polish the jewelry and everything, but Kachinas I've always thought were alien. Otherwise, like, what the heck? But yeah, the red one and the blue one were definitely ones that are like burnt into in my mind, and they would not only have small and medium-sized ones, but like the really large size Kachinas. They're pretty cool. What the Sumerians believed. Zechariah Sitchin helped us to find out what the Sumerians believed, basically that there is a master race of star beings that created us as slaves to mine gold for them. They were depicted as being our gods because they mixed their genes, which they viewed as superior, with those of humanoids that were already adapted to Earth. The story of DNA manipulation of the human comes from texts written by religious philosophers called the Chaldeans, later called the Druids, who served such kings who needed a supporting invented right to rule. They based this divine right of kings by creating patriarch bloodline lists to prove ruler worthiness. The Holy Roman Empire adopted these ideas, created religion, and enforced this upon all the lands under their control. They secretly always had this Chaldean culture as a hidden resource because of the knowledge they had gathered about many esoteric topics and religious-based mind control techniques. Many races were demonized as part of the adversary creation, and not to create a sense of fear that was used for control. Anybody different would be targeted. Any person with unusual colored skin might be used as some evidence of a devilish influence, so likely stories of blue-skinned people went underground. What Nazis believed about race. Famous for elevating the value of the Aryan race, they were vigorous eugenicists studying and experimenting on races they thought inferior. The colored mutant races apparently are on a lower stage of spiritual development, they opined. The racism fueled their erroneous conclusions. Interested in the connection with the possible seeding of Earth by spacefaring beings from Aldebaran, they believed that more of the races intermixed the lower the spiritual development of these people sank, which led to the situation that when the sun Aldebaran began expanding, they could no longer maintain the space travel technology of their forefathers and could not leave the planets by their own means. They thought that the lower races totally depended upon the master race, but to be evacuated and were brought to other inhabitable planets. Despite their differences, all the races respected one another and did not interfere with each other, neither the so-called God people, nor the lower races. Each respected that the others just made their own developments in contrast to what happens on Earth. The star being equivalent of what we called Anunnaki, the Nazis called Aldebarans. Some researchers have said that the Nazis got information from the real society women, mediums with long hair who were channeling beings from Aldebaran using automatic writing. But these researchers are incorrect that the language that the real girls were channeling was Sumerian. Another line of inquiry suggests that the spacefaring ancestors they were communicating with were likely using the Illyrians, trans people from the stars. Language analysis of the text of what medium Maria Orsic wrote. The lettering is Old Illyrian from the ancient Danube River basin. What do the Arcturians look like? Clifford Stone, a military liaison with aliens and a lifelong experiencer, wrote a very interesting article about the Arcturians, a race that has visited Earth and been seen by many contactees. Of all the extraterrestrial civilizations, I feel most drawn to Arcturus, probably because of their total focus in every aspect of society on the path of God realization. For that reason, I will go into detail in describing their wonderful civilization. I also have the good fortune to know someone from Arcturus, who is living on the Earth plane. She is one of the most spiritually gifted people I know. My connection with her and her work has greatly enhanced my own life and spiritual path. Arcturians teach that the most fundamental ingredient for living in the fifth dimension is love. Negativity, fear, and guilt must be overcome and exchanged for love and light. The Arcturians work in close connection with the ascended masters whom they call the Brotherhood of the All. They also work closely with what they refer to as Galactic Command. The Arcturians travel the universe in their starships, which are some of the most advanced in the entire universe. One of the reasons Earth has not been attacked by warlike negative extraterrestrials has been the fear of the advanced starship of the Arcturians. Their ships are state-of-the-art technology, far beyond anything I've mentioned so far. One of the starships circling the Earth is called the Starship Athena, after the Greek goddess. Arcturian society is governed by the elders, who are revered by the people of Arcturus for their advanced knowledge, wisdom, and extremely high vibrational frequencies. The higher the vibrational frequency, the closer one is to light or spirit or God. The Arcturians are short in physical stature, about 3 or 4 feet tall and slender. They look very much alike, which they are happy about because it erases the pettiness of comparing looks, which is so predominant to Earth society. The Arcturians are the most loving and non-judgmental beings you can possibly imagine. Their skin is a greenish color. They have very large almond-shaped eyes. They have only 3 fingers. They have the ability to move objects with their minds and are totally telepathic. Their source of nourishment is an effervescent liquid that is highly vitalizing to their entire being. Their eyes are dark brown or black. Their main organ of seeing is actually their telepathic nature, not their physical eyes. Their sense of hearing transcends even their telepathic nature. They also have an ability to sense with the backs of their heads. The average lifespan is from 350 to 400 years. Their highly developed spiritual nature has allowed them to avoid aging. Since they have the ability to transcend time and space, they terminate life when the contract that has been arranged to their existence is finished. There is no sickness in Arcturus. It was eliminated centuries ago. In the Arcturian system, there are no extreme temperatures. Their civilization is one that has transcended duality and lives live in oneness. Professions in Arcturus are determined by a person's vibrational frequency and the colors in his or her aura. For example, those who are in charge of taking care of the children must have violet as the predominant color in their auras. Only the wisest souls are allowed to associate with the young. The same is true of those who are allowed to give birth. They are screened and tested in terms of their auric and vibrational frequencies. And when chosen by the elders to give birth to an Arcturian child, people go through an amazing process. The vibrations of both individuals involved are raised to a 7th dimensional frequency for the birthing process to ensure bringing in the most highly evolved souls. The 7th dimensional frequency is that of an ascended master. Reproduction is an honor on Arcturus and one of the most highly regarded professions. The actual reproductive act is not performed in a physical sense as it is understood on Earth. On Arcturus, it is done through a kind of mind link in which the male and female energies are perfectly balanced. Through this procreation process, some kind of electron force flows through the two beings and creates another being that is a replica of the link. The new life form is then taken to a special room that emanates the proper vibrational frequencies until the being is ready for integration into a family unit on Arcturus. Many beings from Arcturus are seeded onto other planets because the High Council has ordered this as a great art. On Arcturus there is not competition, even thought, word, deed, and product is judged by its ability to raise the vibration closer to God. If it does not exist in Arcturus. A person's frequency of vibration is directly related to the mastery he has over his body, emotions, thoughts, actions, and creations. Arcturians have total mastery over these aspects of self. They have developed the ability to transcend the ego, the separative, lower, fear-based self. Success is judged only in terms of the measure of light frequency. There are machines that constantly check the vibrational frequencies each individual on the planet is manifesting. If one particular Arcturian receives feedback that he is not meeting his own goals for evolution, then immediately the elders send teachers to help that individual. Conclusion. My takeaway from interacting with John and chatting about the story of the Blue Beings Visitation is that this event was part of a bigger story, but not necessarily a new one. Humanity needs a rewrite of our collective early history, which is likely to be much more vast in terms of timelines and diversity. I pretty much feel lied to from what they teach us in school and in media culture. My intuition has led me into delving into some really interesting information. This information is what explains things as they are in ways that reveal a far more interesting, historical, and rich narrative than what we are told. Glad to share some of my finds with John and his readers. Brett Cullen Shepard, researcher. Chapter 9, The Blue People. By Mary Sutherland. Note from John. It's a chance to interview Mary Sutherland on Aquarian Radio. She has the website Burlington News at burlingtonnews.net. She has been gathering information for many years on all kinds of ET races, giants, anomalies, etc. Her website is a treasure trove of information for anybody wanting to know, well, about a lot of topics. Mary is an intelligent person, was a great guest on Aquarian Radio, and she had a whole page of great info on blue people in history and mythology. In this chapter, we have some choice excerpts to help give some background about other events where blue people were seen or interacted with. The Blue People by Mary Sutherland, copyright 2004. Linking the blue people to the fallen angels and the finish tonight. We're pretty dang close, though. Although mankind has technically progressed since the days of Abraham, I question our intellectual progression. Monday through Saturday, our reality is tunnel-visioned into what we see, touch, and feel. And then Sunday rolls around and off we go to worship an invisible God and his hierarchy of equally invisible angels. Through the week, man shuts his ears and eyes and perception off to the voices and presence of the invisible ones. But will go to church and listen to a pastor relay the messages of those in the past that had not closed their ears and eyes and perception off to what they called lords, angels, devils, and demons. The foundation of the church is based on faith and teaches us to believe in entities we cannot see physically. Speaking this type of instruction is almost laughable, but metaphysically this opens up a whole new world. A world of possible impossibilities. A world of gods, angels, demons, elementals, interdimensional creatures, inner earth beings, and UFOs. By using biblical texts and an open mind, the illusion of God and the angels is dropped and reality sets in. Reality that shows God and his angels, or Elohim, as extraterrestrial humanoids known as the ELS, who had some very advanced technology as well as occult knowledge. The root word El is found in the word angel, Elohim, and the angelic names of Samuel, Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, etc. Genesis describes Elohim and angels as giant in stature, who walked and ate with man and procreated with the women of earth. Based off this biblical description, we know them as giants, who had a digestive system, reproductive organs, and were fertile. They also appeared like men dressed in shining garments. The book of Numbers described how they live among us without seeing or being seen by man, yet perceived by animals. Book of Numbers 22:23-31. Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand, and the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam, not being able to see the angel, struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. Going on in the book of Numbers, it reads, Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way of his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed his head and fell flat on his face. Kings 6:17 records Elisha's request to have a man's eyes opened, and it was granted, and he saw things he formerly could not. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. The Bible says that the angels walked with man and taught them the arts, math, astrology, husbandry, medicine, and skills of making metal, etc. Blue Movians. According to ancient texts, the people of Atlantis received their knowledge from the sunken continent of Lemuria, MU. Mark S. Miller, a student of anthropology for over 30 years, stumbled across a reference to a former race of humanoids who were described as blue. It was through Mark Miller that I learned there was not just 4 races of mankind, but 5. The 5th race, known as the Blue Movians, lived on an unknown continent in the middle of the ocean between Asia and Europe. This, according to all the old maps, was Lemuria. The Blue Movians fit the description of the biblical angels described as very tall, thin, with extremely large heads. They possessed all manners of powers of the mind, teleportation, telekinesis, and ESP. According to some ancient texts, one day, for reasons known only to them, they conveyed to the humans of Earth that they had, through their powers of astral projection, located a planet more suitable to their needs in a far distant solar system or galaxy and departed Earth. Miller believes that each and every one disappeared from the face of the Earth, teleporting themselves to this faraway planet. I submit that there were those that had fallen to the lower vibrations of the earth and would or could not leave this plane, thus bound to this earth. One of these places they called Hell. This supposedly occurred about 60,000 BC. In my research, I always watch for the root words as clues to the lost knowledge. and in the root of Nor, I found the missing link to the blue Movians and the latter Nordics, and a little-known Norwegian myth about a rarely seen island locals call Form a Rockei, or Cloud Island. It is supposedly 400 and so miles from the shores of Moskines due east from the tip of Hell. That's right, Hell. It is called Cloud Island because when it is seen, it is perpetually shrouded in a cloud cover. Many of us researchers have heard the story of UFOs hiding themselves in a cloud. This place, again like the legends of Shambhala, has the ability to veil itself from the eyes of humans. It holds no place on any map because the actual distance is unknown. The island cannot be seen from above despite numerous attempts, and no one can prove that they've actually set foot on its shores, if it has any. Only treacherous cliffs are observed, and none has reached it or even gone all the way around it. The reasons it isn't included on any map are many superstitions related to the island and its inhabitants. In the villages, tales are told about fishing voyages in proximity of this mysterious island, seeing strange dark ships in its waters with crews of very tall people in equally mysterious garb. Garments that shimmer refer back to the description of the garments of the angels at the tomb of Jesus in Luke 24:4. These crewmen have been reported to have a low blue tint to their skins. People of the area call them Delvarnar. Any attempts to approach the island are thwarted by the ocean herself, never allowing the ships to get closer than 100 or so miles. No structures of any kind have ever been observed, no empirical clues or habitation except for those dark ships. Even through binoculars, the ships are always seen barely out of focus, surrounded in fog and mist from the sea. The fishermen of the villages believe that these people are blue-toned, supernatural humanoids, angels perhaps, and they stay clear of the island despite the excellent fishing conditions. Explorer Jacques Cousteau once boasted about coming in contact with a similar people. His description of the blue people he saw as smaller in stature, roughly the height of an average human. However, these people may have been the descendants of the Blue Movians, as I will get to later on in this article. There were papers found in a chest belonging to a Norseman. It told a story about a fishing vessel that was lost to a fierce storm decades ago. Of the 30-man crew, only 2 survived. After being found by some locals several days later, the survivors told an incredible story of being rescued at sea by tall, muscular, dark blue men who yanked them from the freezing waters and brought them aboard their ship, made of black wood, and neither of them had seen before. The rescuer wore long coats with high collars made of a material that appeared to shimmer black and blue as it moved in the wind. The men were bald but had shiny black hair from the base of the skull and fanned outward a bit. Some wore a black metallic band around their foreheads with unknown markings etched in them. Others had hats with rounded top and wide brims, and all wore belts with strange objects attached. Their eyes were dark as midnight under low arches, and a hint of a brow. They were never spoken to directly at first, but would hear mumblings in a large language they were not familiar with as the rescuers conversed among themselves. The men were stowed in a small room below the deck with little light emanating from unseen lamps. The room itself held nothing but cushions atop a dark rug, ornately decorated with silver designs. Again, like nothing they had ever seen before. They were silently given fresh water, thick blankets, and a plate of meats and fruit. After some hours, the doors to the hatch were opened and sunlight streamed in. They were gently taken by the arm and led off the vessel and into a smaller boat of the same design. That boat appeared to be docked between 2 high cliffs in a narrow bay that tapered off into the distance and seemed to have no end. One of the rescued men glanced up at the cliffs and swore he saw windows and doors with light pouring out from them, but that could not be accessible from the bay itself, being hundreds of feet above their position. Old Delvarnar finally spoke to them, saying in perfect Norska, "We will take you home now." It was then that the men noticed his rescuer's skin closely matched that of his long coat. steadily changing hue from darker blue to slightly lighter shades, as ripples across the pond. They thought it might be a reflection from the sea, but their position on the boat betrayed that thought, as the edge of the boat was a few feet away. Delvarnar's voice was low and melodic, making the two men feel drowsy. They felt a warm mist envelop them until they then found themselves in the forest a few miles from their village. From that day on, the villagers swore to leave the island in peace and never discuss it with other outsiders. Could this be the island or the lands of hell? From the books of the Israelites, we have our legend of the angels, but there are other ancient books that describe such spiritual beings, and they are depicted as having a blue tint to their skin. The Bhagavad Gita supports a very ancient race of blue-skinned race, with its stories of Lord Krishna. Instead of being an angel, Krishna was described like that of an avatar, god or demigod. According to the Bhagavad Gita, he was a teacher who taught the workings of creation and gave an understanding of a self-realized soul. He taught the people the science of yoga in all its forms, the path of work, the path of knowledge, the path of mysticism, the path of devotion. He was also depicted with blue skin. Shiva is also depicted as black. I knew. David DeGroff brings up another interesting angle from my research of this blue race. This was the Ainu, who were an indigenous people living in Japan whose skin hue is often described as blue. The Moon People. Several years ago, I came across a report done by the British on a Native American Indian. According to the report, the Cherokee talked of these blue-skinned people who lived on the land before the Cherokee. It was reported that the Cherokee wiped them out. Through an interview I did with Blue Otter, a Cherokee Indian himself, the author of Prophecy Keepers, I found out that these blue-skinned people were not wiped out but lived in the caves below the surface of the earth. He told me that the Cherokee accounts tell that when they came into this land, they found many gardens, but not the people that would have tended to the gardens. Later they found that these people of the gardens lived underground and came out only at night to tend the gardens. The food was harvested, then taken back underground to the homes they had there. The people had blue skin and large eyes. The sun rays were too harsh for them on the surface, so they chose to live underground, away from the harsh rays of the sun, and only come out at night using the light of the moon. The Cherokee called them the Moon People. Although it was assumed that this race of blue-skinned people were wiped out by the Cherokee, we discovered recently that this may not be true. Silver men were exploring some deep caves in Arkansas. Hey, that's where I'm from. After going down so deep, someone or thing started throwing rocks at them, apparently attempting to discourage them from going any deeper into the cave. The men scared off whatever or whoever it was that were throwing the stones and continued to go down deeper. After about 1 mile down into the cave, they came upon some plastic-type transparent tubes. At this point, they could not go any further, but they could see a city on the other side and saw several people with blue skin. Man, we're almost there, but let's see how many pages do we have. 2, basically 3 pages left, but we're not going to be able to finish that in time for the end of the show. So yeah, let's just go ahead and say goodbye for now. Well, thank you guys so much once again for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. It was a pleasure and an honor reading to you. Thank you to all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever else you may be listening Beyond The Omniverse tonight. Had a wonderful time this evening, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend. Don't forget, you guys, we're all in this together. Together we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and week, and I will see you back here, same crazy time, same crazy place. You guys take care, my yous. Don't work too hard, and don't take life so seriously. Enjoy every moment you can.